Good afternoon and welcome to today's top financial headline. Lockheed Martin, a dominant force in the global defense industry, continues to shape the future of military technology, from cutting edge aviation to advanced missile defense systems. But as geopolitical tensions escalate, financial pressures mount in this aerospace giant. So, can strategic supply chain finance solutions help navigate these high stake challenges? We will all break it all down right now for you. Today's broadcast will focus on the financial case analysis of Lockheed Martin. We will begin with an overview of Lockheed Martin and the defense industry. Next, our panel of experts will analyze the company's supply chain practices and financial challenges, and we will then explore how supply chain finance solutions can address these issues. And finally, we will provide some key recommendations to enhance Lockheed Martin's financial and operational resilience. Lockheed Martin is a leader in the global defense industry, providing advanced military technology in four main areas: aeronautics, missile and fire control, rotary and mission systems, and space. These segments generated $71 billion in revenue, with aeronautics alone accounting for $28.6 billion. Since its founding in 1995, Lockheed Martin has become a key defense partner for the US and its allies, focusing 92% of its operations in the US and deriving 70% of its sales from the US national defense. Financially, Lockheed Martin maintains an order backlog of $176 billion, ensuring future revenue stability. With 121,000 employees, more than 13,000 suppliers, and over 350 facilities, this defense giant is not only innovating, but it's also shaping the future of global security. To understand Lockheed Martin's supply chain and financial situation, we first need to examine the defense industry. This sector involves in a distinct contracting process, primarily with governments as clients. Contracts can take years to finalize and typically fall into two categories: fixed price contracts, where suppliers take on the financial risk, and cost plus contracts, where the government covers cost plus an additional margin. The defense industry supply chain and logistics are notably complex, relying on rare materials, advanced manufacturing, and stringent export controls. Geopolitical and regulatory factors heavily impact the industry. Treaties like the NATO Agreement for Foreign Military Sales policies enhance national security but restrict technology transfers. So, additionally, funding cycles are inconsistent due to government policies, global threats, and economic conditions. This unpredictability presents challenges for companies like Lockheed Martin, making supply chain finance solutions essential for maintaining cash flow and operational efficiency. So, with this understanding, we can now examine Lockheed Martin's financial challenges and the potential effectiveness of supply chain finance strategies as a solution. So, I would now like to invite our panel of experts in the studio to provide their critical analysis.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the Lockheed Martin supply chain operations, and the first one is about its reliance on the suppliers. That means it depends on the external companies for materials, components, products, and also part of services. And it also has like a multi-tail dependence. That means its subcontractors have its own subcontractors. That means any failures of these subcontractors can lead to the part shortage, extended lead time, and also the rise of the cost. And the second one is a dependence on the US government. As we can see from the slide, 73% of total net sales in 2024 is come from US government, and 65% of total revenue is from the Department of Defense. That means it's heavily rely on the U.S. government to be it's the source of its revenue. So if the government priority has to change, or budget has cuts, or any delays, it would heavily impact its revenues. And also the third or is the dominance of F-35. So the F-35 has contributed like 26% totally net sales. So it'd be pretty good for its product, but it's any problems happen to about like performance or any new version of competitors, it would, if it appears, so it will just heavily impact its revenue. Now we're gonna talk about its financial challenges. The first is profitability, and from 2023 to 2024, we can see it has increase in revenue, but it has a sharp drop in the gross margin, operating margins, and they said it's heavily because it has 1.96 billion loss recognized on classified program. But it also can indicate that the whole like revenue construction is very unstable because, as we say, it just rely on the F-35 and U.S. government, and also because it's defense industry, so it's very complicated and has a long duration of supply chain, so it also increases the risks. And also about its contract, about like fixed price contract and cost reimbursement contract. That means when it comes to fixed price contract, it may sometimes maybe lost money, but when it comes to cost reimbursable contract, that means it maybe not that be profitable. Now we're going to come to liquidity, and we can see also the quick ratio of industry is 0.2, but the current ratio and quick ratio of Lockheed Martin is increasing. That's just signal the reduce of short-term financial flexibility, and its cash ratio is also decreasing. So it maybe have some problem about cash flow risks. And also, from financial report, we can see that there are 3 billion financing appears in 2024. That means they generally can relies on the actual fundings, maybe some problem about the liquidity. And the third is about solvency. So we can see that compared with the industry of the debt to asset ratio and interest coverage ratio, it's Lockheed Martin does very well, but it still can kind of be worse and worse. So we should be notice that there are some kind of risks about its financing. And the last one is about the efficiency. And the inventory turnover days is only 19 days. That means on average, the inventory will only stay in its warehouse in like 19 days for the whole year, and it's pretty excellent. So that means Lockheed Martin has a very great supply chain management regarding to its inventory and warehouse, and it's also suggest like it only have 11 days of account receivable turnovers. So it also has a very good cash flow management about the receivables, maybe because most of it is from the U.S. government. The last one is about the asset turnover days. It's nearly like nearly 300. That means it is kind of capital intensive business models. Okay, all in all, although Lockheed Martin is very leading company in the defense industry, but it also suggests many problems regarding to its financial. Okay.
Yeah, so talking more about the challenges, I think Leon have given us a deep insight on how that works. For such challenges, people would usually think about reverse financing, or dynamic discounting, or inventory financing. But I don't think that's feasible for a company such as Lockheed Martin. Don't you think so?
Yeah, what I think is like a company like Lockheed Martin, multi-tier supply chain finance would be something that would be really transformative for them, taking into account that they actually collaborates with all kinds of suppliers, just not tier 1 and tier 2, but even the smallest suppliers. They can actually create a lot of impact when you take into account about all the challenges that Leon was talking about. The primary challenge being the liquidity boost. When you take into account liquidity, when you collaborate with all kinds of suppliers, you will be able to increase the cash flow, and this can actually help in maintaining the operation without any kind of disruption. At the same time, this can also help in reducing any kinds of delays, making sure that there are operations are moving on smoothly. At the same time, any kind of critical schedules like the F-35 is actually maintained properly, and the procurement efficiency, which is again a really huge challenge that Leon was talking about, can be actually made into a supplier network, which actually would enable Lockheed Martin to negotiate better contract terms, at the same time streamline any kind of procurement decision making. But I think there could be other reasonings that people would think about dynamic discounting or something like that that would work. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that really makes sense. Like, I understand why people think that, because, but when you see from a company for Lockheed Martin, like involving a third party, like a bank or financial other institutions, having an extra transfer fee can have another financial burden to the already having issues. And also, if they have any economic conditions that can tighten the bank's issue, and they might stop the flow. And they also have strict contracts, which doesn't allow them to do, because their end customers are government and defense systems. While thinking about dynamic discounting, it's a good thing. Early payments are really good, but for a tier 1 company, the contract goes on such way wherein the tier 1 company pays to the tier 2 companies. So it clearly doesn't work. If the tier 1 companies can't get the benefits, they don't need early payments because they have enough cash. So they wouldn't give that for the tier 2 companies, the benefits. And emergency fund is very efficient, very needed for a company like Lockheed Martin. They wouldn't use that for early payments. And inventory financing, keeping defense for instruments and things like that as a collateral is not a feasible thing, because that's government property and it can be risky. So clearly those are not the options, and I think clearly makes sense why you choose that. Yeah.
As Anne and Nibah suggested, I strongly recommend Lockheed Martin to implement multi-tier supply chain finance. So if you look at the production of F-35, it can be confirmed that it is a very intricate global supply chain. Over 10,000 suppliers across multiple tiers. Its production takes long time. However, it seems like it's suffering a little bit lately, because if you look at from between August 2017 to July 2019, late deliveries of F-35 components rose from 2,000 to 10,000, and in 2023, Pratt & Whitney delivered 100% of engine late, which resulted in Lockheed Martin delivering 91% of aircraft late. And also in 2020, the initial goal was 141 aircraft, but Lockheed Martin was only able to produce 120, falling 21 aircraft short of their initial goal. Of course, there might be a lot of factors behind this, but I want to emphasize the biggest problems would be cash liquidity and lack of cash flow. Because if you look at the very nature of defense industry, it is a very capital intensive industry. We're not talking about phones or desk or chair. We're talking about aircraft and missile systems, which can be very expensive. So for the sub-tier suppliers that might not have very big assets to themselves, if the cash flow or cash liquidity is not guaranteed, they're not able to produce their products on time. For example, if a company spends tens of thousands of dollars producing an engine, but they didn't get paid yet for the production that's waiting behind would lag, because they wouldn't have enough money to produce another engine. However, by implementing multi-tier supply chain finance, first, they can strengthen sub-tier suppliers' stability, because this way, banks and fintech platforms can offer lower interest rate to sub-tier suppliers by Lockheed Martin's financial backing. And also, suppliers can prevent production bottlenecks, because the more financial stable suppliers will be able to reduce F-35 assembly delays. And lastly, the faster supplier payments means that it's going to alleviate the financial stress of sub-tier suppliers, which can result in on-time delivery of F-35 components. So in this way, multi-tier supply chain finance can greatly reduce the problem that Lockheed Martin is facing.
Breaking news from around the world 24 hours a day.